Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to the Thai Expat Daily Show. I'm your host, Kieran Mack, as always, and delighted you've been able to tune in with us yet again for another show. Now, before we do get into the top 5 stories trending here in Thailand, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you already haven't, and give us an old share on social media if you haven't yet. Also, don't forget to hit that notification bell on YouTube, and it'll let you know when the next show is available. If you like listening to us on a podcast player, there's a link down below in the description where you will find all the available podcast players that are hosting the show. And finally, if you like the show, if you want to support the show, if you want to buy me a coffee, you can do so by following the link down below in the description for buymeacoffee.com. So now that's all said and done, we are going to jump into quite a few stories trending here in Thailand. For anybody who doesn't know, this Thursday, the 13th of June, will be the Parliament will elect a new Prime Minister for the country. That's a combination of the members of Parliament and the Senate. The Senate, which comprises of 250 hand-picked junta senators from the previous government. And they have 10 more months in power, actually. And then after that, they will be disbanded, and it'll just be left with the MPs there who will vote on various different things. What's quite interesting about this is they'll be meeting at 9:30 on Thursday morning, but however, the vote for the actual prime ministerial ship won't probably take place until about 5 p.m. that evening, so it'll be a late evening with news coming from that on whether or not Pita Limjaroenrat will be the next Prime Minister here in Thailand. For me at the moment, it's all up in the air. It's 50-50 whether he will get in or not. They're claiming they have the votes. A lot of people are claiming they have the votes. There are senators coming out and saying, yes, we are going to vote for him. We're going to listen to the will of the people. But we're going to leave that and we'll get into it later on in the show. But let's just start off with missing German broker found dead. Now in CHON BURI, this happened. Police found the body of missing German property broker hidden in a freezer at a house in tambon Nong, Prue of Lamung district on Monday night. Detectives found the body of Hans-Peter Ralter Mack, 62 years of age, as they were conducting a search based on surveillance camera footage. Police were trying to find the whereabouts of the German, who went missing from his family on July 4th. Forensic officers were examining the scene to determine the cause of death. Before finding the body, a Thai couple told police that they had been hired by a German woman to deliver the freezer to house number 5949 in Nong, Prue. Police then reviewed surveillance camera footage and have identified a German man, a close friend of the German woman, driving a pickup truck which transported the freezer. The truck was seen travelling on roads in CHON BURI, covering a total distance of about 160 kilometres. The truck was eventually parked at a one-storey house, number 2696, in Chok Chai Garden Home, one housing estate of Nong Prue. There, police found the freezer containing the body, along with an electric saw, rope, food seals, and bottles of drinking water, soda and beer. The victim's body was dismembered, with the head, body and limbs separated and put in bags that were found in the 1.5 metre long freezer, which was being powered within the house. Police Major General Tirachai, investigative chief of the Provincial Police Region 2, said there was evidence pointing to the offenders. He attributed the death to extortion, adding that about 2 million baht had been transferred from the man's bank account. On July 5th, Mack's 24-year-old Thai wife, whose name was not released, told investigators that he had left their home in Swiss Paradise Housing Estate in Pattaya, CHON BURI on July 4th to meet a foreign property broker. The meeting was to discuss property sales in Pattaya and Koh Samui of Surat Thani province. Mack's silver Mercedes-Benz E350 Coupe was found in the CC condominium parking lot on Nong Noi Road in Tambon Nong Prue on Sunday morning. Inside the car, police found stains of a chemical cleaner apparently used in an attempt to destroy evidence. According to his wife, she's been living with the German for about 5 years. The man had 2 sons from a previous marriage. Very sad end to a man's life. It seems to be, and according to other publications that I've read, that the only suspects in this case are foreigners and possibly Germans. Again, here in Thailand, it seems to attract some of the scummiest and most brutal criminals around, and it would be if you're able to commit this kind of a murder and go to the effort that they had in trying to dismember his body, putting it in a freezer and doing all these things, it probably isn't the first time that they've done something like this. So it does make you wonder what the immigration police are doing here when they're allowing people into the country. And I think it's time Thailand gets a lot more stricter with the type of people it's allowing into this country. And this goes to how they stay here longer, background checks on people, and really just focusing on people who may look suspicious and may, in essence, be here for reasons other than to enjoy life. In this kind of situation, we can see that money was robbed from him, but the brutality of the crime is what gets to me, I'm sure there will be more about this in the coming days. It seems that Mr. Mac's wife is certainly not going to let it go, and we will be hearing a lot more about this over the coming days and what motivated. And of course, I'm expecting arrests in all of this. Now we're going to move along. Pita Limjaroenrat, he's the Prime Ministerial candidate for the Move Forward Party and the guy that is expected to be nominated on Thursday for the Prime Ministerialship here in Thailand. And he's sent a message to MPs, senators ahead of Thursday's vote. Move Forward Party leader Pita Limjaroenrat on Tuesday sent a message to MPs and senators asking that Thailand be allowed a democratic majority government in accordance with the people's will when they vote for a new Prime Minister on Thursday. Mr. Pita, the MPF's sole prime ministerial candidate, made his appeal in a video posted on his Facebook page. In the video, lasting 4 minutes and 33 seconds, the MPF leader began by saying that May 14th was the day when the will of the Thai people was clearly expressed through ballot papers that showed 14.438 million votes going to the MFP, giving it victory and the most House seats at 152. This is a loud voice heard across the country, showing that people want change. I and Move Forward will adhere to the people's mandate to move ahead and form a government. We have mustered the votes of 8 coalition parties, representing 72% of voters who exercise their voting rights. In normal politics, we, a coalition government led by the MPF, would already be running the country and tackling the people's problems, Mr. Pita said. He said it had taken almost 2 months to get to the vote for a Prime Minister since the general election. The 8-party alliance was still awaiting decisions by senators on the formation of a government in line with the people's will or not. Today, it's clear that Thailand is an unusual political situation. The people's mandate earned through elections has been repeatedly overthrown by coups, lawfare and party dissolutions. This abnormality is caused by the 2017 constitution and that cannot be denied. This is an opportunity for Thailand to return to normalcy. Give Thailand this opportunity to have a legitimate government, one which will move ahead and fix Thailand as the people expected. Give Thailand the opportunity to return to a parliamentary political path that people can have faith in and pin their hopes on. Give Thailand the opportunity to move forward for change, fair wages, comprehensive welfare benefits, a progressive and fair economy with its own innovations and reduced inequality, and equality in society with laws that protect rights and liberties, not the suppression of people's rights, the MFP Prime Ministerial candidate said. He said the voting on July 13 for a Prime Minister was not just a vote for him or the MFP, but a chance to confirm that Thailand will move forward along a normal democratic path like other democratic countries around the world. This would confirm that although people still lived with a constitution that seemed to support unusual politics, parliamentarians could use their voice to carry out the people's will as expressed through the elections to successfully form a government with majority representation. It was a joint mission for all parliamentarians who represent Thai people across the country. On this occasion, I would like to communicate with all MPs and senators who may not like our political approach. In normal politics, you can scrutinise, grill or vote me out of the position, but voting for a majority government will give Thailand the opportunity to move ahead in the way that it should, Mr. Pita said. He promised to be a Prime Minister for all people, regardless of which party they voted for or whatever their political ideology. I will be a Prime Minister who runs the country and embraces the diversity of everyone's dreams, Mr. Pita said. It's quite a speech beforehand, and I think a lot of effort has gone into drafting it and conveying it to these senators. And I think it's really focused at these senators, because, they hold the key to him getting into government. Now, we do have another little situation that's been going on, and whether or not you're aware about this or not. So, whether or not he can run is also dependent on the Election Commission. And they took up a case in relation to his ITV media shares. Now, what they're deciding on is whether or not he willfully hid the fact that he had these shares, which is very, very strange because he did disclose them to the NACC when he was a MP in 2019. And when he left politics, when he ended his MP-ship in 2023 this year, with the new election, and he disclosed them again. And he's been investigated for that. Now, the Election Commission were meant to give a ruling on this on Monday, whether or not they would accept that he did disclose, he had no knowledge or whatever, or whether they'll send it to the Constitutional Court for a ruling by this court. And this court has never been very friendly to the Move Forward Party, let me tell you that. And on Monday, they were meant to come out with a ruling. And they said, we can't decide. So we'll tell you tomorrow, which was yesterday. And of course, yesterday came and they have the same thing. We're going to tell you again today. We're not sure. We can't decide. So it does look like, from the outsiders at the moment, that the Election Commission are playing politics here. And if they were to send this to the Constitutional Court, this may sway people who are about to vote for Pita, because they're saying now that, well, maybe our vote will be useless anyway, because the Constitutional Court will say that, oh, these are media shares. He had stakes in a media company. He was dishonest about it. And he's banned for politics for the next 10 years. So this is what could potentially happen. Now, if they come out on the eve of the vote and send it to the Constitutional Court, I have a feeling that things are going to start to get a little bit charged here. I think people will not see this as a good thing. They'll see it as political interference. And by all accounts, from the Thai media at the moment, the ones that are fair and balanced down the middle. Now, I'm not talking about the Bangkok Post, who seem to be, I don't know how they put their articles together, but they're certainly never pro-Pita. In most of the articles, it's always about how he doesn't have enough votes and a source says this and a source says that. Of course, the source is never named. But nevertheless, there is that issue that's coming down the way, and whether or not the Election Commission, on the eve of the vote, are going to send this to the Constitutional Court. It's very tricky. And I tell you, it'll look very bad for them if they do. Now, they may just come out and say, okay. And the way a lot of people see this as is he's disclosed that he had the shares. He's never hidden them. He disclosed them to the National Anti-Corruption Commission. They've already accepted that he did. And he disclosed them when he finished his 4 years in term. Because after 4 years here in Thailand, you have to disclose again to make sure you have no unusual wealth gained during your 4 years in Parliament. And in fact, he lost 35 million during his 4 years as a MP here in Thailand. So no one can guess at this stage. But I will say, if they didn't, if they come out and they say, look, he's done nothing wrong, we accept what he says, the case is closed then. It can't be taken to the Constitutional Court by anybody else because they've made their decision. I say he will get in. I say he'll muster up enough votes. But if they do send it, I don't know. Politics here in Thailand is very, very messy, guys. And it's not normal. It's stacked against parties that are not part of the political system here. The ones that, that we've been looking at for the last 4 years here in this country, the dinosaurs as such, the establishment. And it really is stacked up against them. And they make it as difficult as possible for these people who may have good intentions for the country to actually ever get into power, because they don't want change in power. But we do see this around the world in many, many countries, and sometimes it takes strong people and a strong citizen to say we want no more of this. And when Pita talks about what he talks about, 72% of people have voted for this coalition, and when you combine it all together, that says a lot too. And if the senators ignore that, I think there is going to be problems and trouble along the way. But we're going to move along to some rather interesting news. Prayut, he's quit politics. He's done and dusted. He got his hammering in the election. And yes, he's leaving. Outgoing Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha announced on Tuesday that he will leave politics and resign as a member of the United Thai Nation Party. His statement was posted on the party's Facebook page. He expressed his wish that the party leader and executive board members, as well as his members, will continue political activities with strong ideologies while protecting the country's institutions and taking care of the Thai people. He asked that many people continue to support the work of the party and expressed his thanks to people who supported the party and him in the general election in May. The party garnered 4.7 million votes, that's 12% of the voter turnout. This gave the party 13 party list MPs and 36 MPs altogether, which is considered good for a party which was only recently founded. I decided to be a member of the United Thai Party because I wanted a party of quality with strong ideologies, which loves the country, the religion and the monarchy, as well as being a pillar for the country in the future, Prayut wrote. He was impressed with the understanding, sympathy and confidence he received from people during his visits to meet them throughout the country. I'm happy that I had opportunities to listen to the opinions of the party members and the people, Prayut wrote, adding that these are the valuable experiences which he will never forget. He said that during the 9 years as Prime Minister, he had worked hard and had made best efforts to bring prosperity to the country and the public. Interesting about how he talks about when he was out and about campaigning, he was listening to the people. Wasn't there a lady somewhere up north that was literally carted away? She lost a tooth because she was protesting and asking what he had done for the country in her time, what he had done for her. But that's quite an interesting. I guess he does forget that he took over the country by the gun in a military coup. These things they always seem to, brush over like it didn't happen. But nevertheless, how was he as a person for this country? I think he ruled exactly as he probably ruled in the army. He didn't want to listen to anybody telling him anything different. He certainly didn't like the media when he was being asked questions, and he treated them all like children. I mean, some people would say fair enough, but I mean, this is kind of what happened. And the way he spoke to people, I think, was more of an authoritarian figure rather than somebody who saw themselves as an equal with the people. I think that is possibly one of the criticisms of him. How did the country fare in his time here? Well, it was fairly brutal until we had an election in 2019. It was okay, the economy, but then, of course, like every other economy, COVID hit, and there was very little he could do about it. I mean, if we look at it. I will say one thing, and one positive note on Prayut and his administration from, let's say, 2020 to 2022. They did procure vaccines for this country so the country could get back to some normalcy. And people will say, well, the vaccine doesn't work and all this nonsense. But at the time, we can talk about that. That's a different topic, whether it works or not, whether we needed it or not, and the after effects of it. But if we talk about what he did in getting the vaccines to this country and getting everybody vaccinated in a very speedy manner, I must say. I mean, that part of it was impressive. I actually think that the vaccine rollout in this country was very well handled. Now, it was a bit of a mess at the beginning. Fair enough, okay? Foreigners aren't allowed to be vaccinated and all this stuff. And it took phone calls from embassies and people to start reminding them that your citizens are getting vaccinated in other countries. And, you should be offering the same to everybody. This virus doesn't care who you are, right? And the colour of your skin or where you came from or what your citizenship is. So everybody should be vaccinated. And they did kind of come around to that thinking. And I will say that I am vaccinated multiple times, and any time I went to get vaccinated, I found the operation for vaccinations highly professionally done, very well organised. And I do put that down to the government and the public system here and how well they operated when it came to things like that, and the care in which they took care of people during that time in terms of the vaccines. Now, of course, they tried their best. And a lot of people can always go on about, well, he could have done better. But at the end of the day, Thailand is not a first world country. I mean, it has aspirations to get there. But, they have a limited pot of money as well. But so during the COVID and the pandemic, I think he did an okay job. I think he did no worse of a job than any other political leader around the world. But I'd love to know what you think about it. You may disagree, you may agree. I'd love to know down below in the comment section. Now, saying all that about Prayut, the outgoing Prime Minister has been found guilty of neglect of duty over PM 2.5 pollution. Now, this one he did fail badly on. The Chiang Mai Administrative Court ruled against the Prime Minister and the National Environmental Board on Monday for neglecting their duty to deal with the annual dense smog in Chiang Mai. Both defendants were found to have ignored their duties as stipulated in the Enhancement and Conservation of National Environmental Quality Act. The court also ruled that the Prime Minister, Prayut Chan-o-cha, ignored his duties or delayed performing his duties in preventing PM 2.5 air pollution in Chiang Mai, as stipulated in the Disaster Prevention and Mitigation Act of 2007. The air pollution caused by PM 2.5 dust has eased since May, but the problem returns from December to May every year and has a tendency to worsen each year. It has an extreme impact on the public's health and the environment, so the courts ruled that, as it is evidence that the problem will reoccur as a precautionary and preventative principle, there is sufficient reason to order both defendants to issue quick and effective measures to be used in preventing, mitigating and solving the problem. Now, I spoke about kind of the good I think he did during COVID, and this is one of his big failures. Now, let's be honest, you can't say, oh, well, he was only in government since 2019. He started the coup in 2014. So he's been in power basically, 9-10 years. He could have handled this better, and they never did anything about this PM 2.5 problem. This year has literally been probably the worst. Chiang Mai was the worst polluted air quality in the world at times during this year. And it's certainly not something to be proud of, but there was nothing done about it. It was all, well, we're going to have a meeting about a meeting, but they never got down to the nitty gritty of trying to solve it. And I think that is one of the greatest failures of him and his government over the last 4-10 years, whatever you want to call it. It is something that is preventable if you go about it in the right way and you work with your neighbours and, your neighbouring countries, and you work with law enforcement in your own country to stop the burning, which is part of the real problem. But none of this was really tackled and it was left. But it's good to see this case was taken by 2 citizens here in the country who decided they had enough was enough. And a ruling against Prime Minister is a pretty big thing. Now, though this didn't get much media play really in terms of the articles and publication itself, it is significant in that, well, it does show that the court system does somewhat work in this country too. And finally, Russian man dies after falling from pagoda in Phuket. Now, this story is a couple of days old. As I haven't had a show, I thought I'd still bring it to you. But a Russian man died after falling from the roof of a pagoda in Muang district on the island's province over the weekend. Police received a report that the tourist, whose name was not identified, climbed up the roof of pagoda at Wat Chatararam, or better known as Wat Shillong, in Tambon, Shillong, in Phuket at around 5:30 p.m. Police and rescue workers rushed to the scene to help persuade him to climb down, as they were concerned that he jumped and that he may take his own life. By 7:55 p.m, he still refused to come down. Phuket Governor Nong, along with local officials, rescue teams, medics, and concerned agencies arrived at the temple, and safety cushions were prepared. After negotiations failed, rescue staff charged towards the tourist at around 8:30. During the struggle, the man fell onto the safety cushions with substantial injuries. The medics immediately transported him to Vashira Phuket Hospital. Hospital officials reported that his heart had stopped beating and doctors on duty were making efforts to resuscitate him. Local news media reported on Saturday morning that the Russian man had died and passed away. So RIP to that gentleman, and the idea that you need and you feel that you need to take your own life. Now, I saw this video on TikTok, and originally when I saw this video, I thought it was some kind of a stunt, because it was filming and it looked like it was like a scene from a movie. And even the way he jumped off, he jumped off, it's on TikTok, you can see the full video, and he jumps backwards off it. It kind of looked like it was a scene from a movie nearly. And after the next day, I had flipped by and a friend of mine had said, "Did you see that thing about the guy who killed him?" I said, "That was real?" I genuinely thought it was a stunt in a movie because of the way it was filmed, etc. But it's very shocking to think that people feel the need to take their own life because it's the end. Regardless of what you believe, whether you go to you go to heaven or wherever you go, it's still the end, and you will always be leaving family members behind who will always be wondering why and what drove you to doing this. So, people, if you ever have issues, you ever have problems, there's plenty of phone numbers here in Thailand where you can call and get help. And I always hear people say that there's not a lot of, mental help and support here in Thailand, but there actually is a lot. And I'll leave numbers down below in the description of this video. If people, ever feel like they need someone to talk to, they certainly can. And there certainly are agencies here in this country who will talk to people who are feeling depressed and suicidal. But nevertheless, that is it for today, folks. I hope you enjoyed the show. We'll have another show in the next day or two. We're going to try to figure out what the news is, what's going on in relation to the Prime Minister. Will we have a new Prime Minister very soon? And all that will be coming up this week. So plenty of news and plenty of action coming. So take care, stay safe, and we'll talk to you in the next couple of days. But ultimately, with this story or anything else that stood out to you today, I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. Because yes, this is a news show, but it's also a conversation. Now keep that conversation going. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and do all the good stuff that does help that YouTube algorithm. But ultimately, my name is Kieran Mack. You've been listening to the Thai Expat Daily Show, and we will see you next time.